It's funny how sometimes being a real expert in one thing can actually make it harder to wrap your head around something new. Your best, most trusted instincts can totally lead you down the wrong path when the fundamental rules of the game just change. So let's get into it, because that's exactly what's happening when seasoned crypto miners take their first look at a system like Qubitcoin.
All right, just look at this number for a second. 70%. Now, in the world of decentralized networks, seeing a single entity control 70% of anything is usually a massive red flag. It just sets all the alarm bells ringing, right? So let's frame the question. What if one single mining pool had 70% of an entire network's hash rate, its total computing power? For anyone who's spent time in this space, that question, well, it just feels loaded. It screams danger. And this right here is the heart of what we're talking about today. In the Bitcoin universe, that 70% number is a 5-alarm fire. It's a sign of a huge systemic risk. But in Qubitcoin, it means something completely different. And we're not just talking about a simple software update. This is like looking at a whole new architectural blueprint.
So, to really get why our instincts might be failing us here, we've got to respect where they came from. Let's take a look at what I'm calling the Bitcoin reflex, that gut feeling, that intuition that's been built up over more than a decade of proof of work. Okay, so the logic in the Bitcoin world is actually super straightforward. Step 1, the work is just raw brute force hashing. Its only job is to win the lottery and find the next block. Step 2, because of that, mining pools, which bundle up all that power, become these natural centers of authority. And that leads to the final, unavoidable conclusion. Having more hash rate means you have more control over the network. Simple as that. And all that logic hardens into this really powerful and frankly, correct rule of thumb. For any veteran miner, seeing a pool's hash rate start creeping up is an instant, automatic warning sign of danger. It's a reflex. And honestly, for a long time, it's been a really good one that's helped keep the ecosystem secure. And here's the absolute key. That reflex isn't wrong. It's just being applied in the wrong place. It's kind of like using the rules of chess to analyze a game of checkers. Yeah, the board looks the same, the pieces move, but the game, the strategy, the way you win, it's all different. It's what you'd call a classic category error. All right, so let's pivot and look at how Qubitcoin completely redraws the map with its structural shift. This is where we see how it takes those concepts that Bitcoin welded together, work, coordination, and authority, and just pulled them apart. This comparison says it all. A Bitcoin pool is an authority. It's like the editor-in-chief. It decides which transactions get in the block, what the block looks like, and which chain to build on. But a Qubitcoin pool, it's a coordinator. It's more like a traffic cop or a dispatcher. It's a logistics layer that routes jobs and handles payments. It just doesn't wield the same kind of power. So how does this happen? It really comes down to 3 huge differences. First, in Qubitcoin, the work being done actually has its own value. It's useful computation, maybe for something like AI research, not just burning energy to guess a number for a lottery ticket. Second, as we just saw, pools are for logistics, not for consensus. And that brings us to the biggest break from the old way of thinking. A pool's size, its market share, is just a reflection of how much miners like using it. It's about preference, not power over the protocol. Okay, so if a giant pull percentage isn't the boogeyman we should be scared of, then what is? We need to kind of recalibrate our danger DAR and learn what genuine systemic risk actually looks like in the Qubitcoin model. This table really puts it all side by side. See a pool with 75% hash rate? In Bitcoin, that means a critical risk of someone controlling the chain. In Qubitcoin, it just means, hey, a lot of miners really like using that one coordinator. Hash rate in Bitcoin is authority. In Qubitcoin, it's just a measurement of raw computational work being done. The person in charge is controlling totally different things. The things you actually have to worry about in Qubitcoin are way more technical, more under the hood. We're talking about things like the proof verification system breaking or the difficulty adjustment getting unstable. These are deep protocol-level problems, the kind of stuff you would never spot just by looking at a pie chart of mining pools. And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, something we can call the veteran's dilemma. It's this idea that the very expertise that makes you a master of the old system can become the biggest wall to understanding the new one. So, adopting this new mental model, that's the real challenge. Because really, when you boil it all down, this isn't about learning new code or figuring out new hardware. The biggest shift that has to happen is an intellectual one. It's all about changing your perspective. There is this quote from the material that it nails it. It really captures the core of the issue. It's a great reminder that when a true paradigm shift happens,
You have to be willing to consciously put down your old, familiar tools, even the ones that have worked perfectly for years.
So after walking through all of this, it really comes down to one big mental adjustment. What's the single most important rule from the old world that we have to actively unlearn to see this new one clearly? This right here is the golden rule we have to let go of. Hash rate concentration equals control. In the world of Qubitcoin, that equation is broken. It's just not true anymore. Pool size is a metric for popularity, not a measure of power. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Unlearning that one rule completely opens up our understanding of this new system. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other basic foundational rules that we take for granted in technology might be ready for their own massive structural shift?